Welcome everyone to the fourth episode, actually, already of the Accelerate Bio podcast, which we host together. LFG, let's fucking go!
Let's
Which we
go.
host together with BiohackerDAO as Data Lake, and today we have a special guest here with us, quite unusual, because we usually invite, the people that work in the lab that are behind these scientific or these high projects, but today we have someone that's a very key influential person actually in DeSci, someone that has been with both of us, with BiohackerDAO and Data Lake on the journey for quite some time already. And we have no one else than Patrick, more known as that investor on X. Hey, Patrick.
How's it going, Oliver? Thank you so much for that kind intro. I am super excited, amped up to be here today. I just finished a workout, so my energy should be high, and I'm ready to talk decentralized science and more importantly, hear updates from both of you guys. Both of you guys have been deep at work lately, so I'm excited. DeSci is looking froth with opportunity.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Oh, that proves a good testosterone pump. Sorry, go on.
No, obviously we approved the testosterone pump. It's obviously better than doing some cardio. But me personally, I'm a cardio person, increasing my VO2 max every day. Pushing the limits to be on the leaderboard. You guys have in Biohack without. But I think
Mm.
we should, quite briefly recap people on what has been actually happening in both of our projects, and then we dive deeper into these side during the last 4 weeks because we actually had a break over the Christmas holidays and New Year's Eve. So if you want to start, the floor is yours. I've heard that there was a lot of stuff happening at BiohackerDAO. I mean, I don't know where to even start, so you're the best person.
Um, there always seems to be a lot going on, but definitely over the past couple of weeks, I mean, the big one was we did our TGE just under 2 weeks ago now, EA. So for those who don't know what it means, basically our token has gone live. So it's tradable on Uniswap. So now I can start, or rather I have already started to lose my sleep on watching the price go up and down, red and green candles. So that's like a whole a whole new dimension to my life that's been unlocked.
Amazing news. I've been tracking very closely, the launch of you guys. There's also been a lot of stuff happening at Data Lake when it comes to launches. So back in December, we actually teased the newest platform called Lakefun, where we actually planned to expand our of efforts in patient recruitment to the whole world. And it's actually not even an hour right now since we launched our first project that focus on the dermatological AI algorithm analysis. So I'm not gonna bore you, with the details about how it works, but you can basically take your smartphone, take a photo of your skin, and it's gonna tell you that, this is perhaps this is perhaps something that shouldn't be on your skin, and you should go farther and have it analyzed. But what is more, we provide access to this tool for free to all project participants, and you can actually get a share of a pool of lake tokens if you take part in it. So very exciting stuff.
It
You,
is
you
really
just gave
cool.
me new anxiety about stuff on my skin, Oliver, but I'm very
No,
excited for the product.
hopefully that gets rid of the anxiety. I know my mom just had a bunch of surgeries getting rid of little marks on her skin. She let them go for a little bit too long, but luckily she caught them and it's easy to deal with. But if you catch them, so that's actually huge.
And I was also worried because I had this like darker thing on the skin, and I was like thinking, oh God, I have cancer or something, and it just told me it was basically like a sunburn, a stain on the skin that was left there after getting sunburned. So I guess I'm safe for now.
That's funny. You built an entire, or helped build an entire app just so that you could calm down your anxiety about the sunburn.
We didn't build it. We have an amazing partner in crime doing this with us. But Patrick, tell us what you've been up to during the last few weeks. What's up with all the DeSci stuff? What you've been following? I'm very interested to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. So my attention specifically usually goes to whatever my community is focused in on, and because the market was really frothy until DeepSeek announced that they were coming into the market and decided to tank everything, everyone was super fixated on pre-sales and new emerging launches or developments or deployments of apps and everything within DeSci. So I've been very focused in on trying to like educate myself on what's been going on in the space as it pertains to those launches and everything. So that's been eating up a lot of my time. But then obviously, of course, you guys see in the description underneath my name, we got Bill, the DeSci guy. So because I'm not capable of like keeping up with the market 24/7, trying to create an agent that will actually be able to fill in my shoes and do what I wish I could do. But been just trying to keep track of as much as humanly possible in decentralized science. A lot of it focused in on just like the already existing projects from where I try and focus on because that's where a lot of my portfolio is tied up into. But it's been very exciting. That's to say the least.
AI agents, it's become a buzzword. I've heard about the newest AI tool, which basically made us whole, have the market go down and affect all of our lives, probably. But I think it would be actually great to perhaps, just quickly give a people, a quick overview what actually an AI agent means. I would love to dive deeper into DeSci afterwards, but we have mentioned something that has been quite a hot narrative lately. So perhaps it might be worth explaining.
Yeah, I definitely think it is worth explaining. I'll give my like 2 minute spiel on it to try and like lay the foundation. Then I'm sure both of you guys have good insight on agents right now as well. But essentially, an AI agent is like ChatGPT, where you can go have a conversation with it, and it almost feels like an entity that's existing just on this one app, which is ChatGPT. An agent is agnostic across the internet, so you have to integrate all the different plugins and the API access to go actually access the different protocols and different tools on the internet. But these agents are supposed to be agnostic, but it's right now the way a lot of them work is like you have one specific framework and then you're just going to different AI protocols and AI tools and kind of stapling them in together and creating a user face to allow for people to actually come in and ask questions and have it do things. So the first kind of iteration that we're seeing, because these things are effectively brand new as of 2024, like we didn't really see many before that, and not even until like Q3 of 24 did we see any really get limelight. Um, a lot of them are like chatbots or like shit posters on X, in which they just like you tag them and they respond instantly, and then if you tag two agents they get stuck in like a little endless loop of responding to each other. But the more practical use case for a lot of these agents is, in my opinion, in areas as like DeSci, where you can take an agent and kind of put it into a specific task, i.e. diagnoses, and like trying to figure out exactly based off of an x-ray what's going on in the body. And it has a higher accuracy rate than just a regular human would because it can be trained on as much data as you can possibly feed it, or different things. And I can go into my agent and what kind of the future looks like for him, but I don't want to get too in the weeds with it. But we did just announce that he's being trained on a quantum network, so his data processing capabilities are going through the roof, like they're starting to explode. And so it's been pretty fascinating to see it all, because I think a lot of the people, especially people watching the chat right now, and I see the chat
Mhm.
ticking up a lot right now. So good morning to all of you guys. Thank you for coming in. Make sure you guys repost the space, share the link out, spread the word. This is a very good podcast, very good YouTube channel. I watch a lot of your guys' content actually. So really appreciate you having me on again. But and I forget what I was about to say.
No
So I'll
worries.
let you guys
We
go
already
for it.
see, people writing Bill is awesome. So I guess that a lot of people already heard about what you guys been up to.
Hell yeah.
So, you know, talking about AI and AI agents with actually DeSci, there's one question, I must ask you, how how do you see the future of, AI agents being implemented in like DeSci projects, right? Because we're getting a lots of data everywhere, We have long COVID labs, which have just finished their amazing race yesterday. It was a lot of amount of money. I don't know what was the exact amount, but they made a raise that was like 5x over the cap, right? And they're gonna be collecting patients and trying to solve the problems of people having sort of conditions after having long COVID. But we have massive clusters of data being generated in DeSci and lots of causes that are trying to solve various problems that are problems worth solving, right? So, how do you see, AI agents helping them actually on this journey in the future?
Yeah, I mean, 90% of all the data that we have generated as a species has come in the last 2 years. And because of the exponential growth, that is a stat that will remain the same into the future, meaning in 2 years, all the data we currently have will only represent 10% of the total pie. And so I don't care how many humans you put on a task, if it has to do with large amounts of data, which research always does, you're never going to be able to actually sort through all of it, which means you need to implement these artificial intelligent frameworks in order to actually be able to find usable insights from these large data sets. And even the process of cleaning the data and actually organizing it and sifting, like the whole 9 yards. And so what agents can do is come in and act as a tool to hyper fixate your attention or focus your company's attention in on what areas are actually going to be the most impactful. So I think one good example is, and one that's been catching a lot of people's attention in DeSci, is yes, no error. So yes, no error. Have you guys heard of this one before?
I've
Yes.
I've seen that that Bio protocol was, or someone out of the BioDAOs was partnering with them, but I didn't have the time, to read about them yet. But it'd be great if we can actually even tap into that. And see what guys know. I don't.
I was gonna say, M goes. You want to take a crack at it? I saw your eyes light up when I said it.
No, no, I think you can do it better than me. Go ahead.
Okay, so yes, no error is, and you saw that they partnered with Research Hub. So they've developed an AI agent or an AI framework that can go in and read through peer-reviewed articles or preprints or submissions for peer review and effectively act as a peer review resource. So they can go in and kind of break down the data, point out where flaws might have happened or where errors come into place, and provide kind of insight and explanations, or just say, yeah, this is good research. So it's been a pretty powerful tool. I've seen some testimonies online from different researchers who are actually using the tool. And again, like I said, it's just like a calculator was when they first came out. It's a tool that you will have on your computer that allows you to just make more informed decisions. So if you upload your research to it, you can get kind of a breakdown of what this AI framework specifically thinks of it, and then make your decisions from there.
So this is very interesting, and yeah, we spent some time discussing AI agents and how they are going to. Um, I want to say 10x DeSci, but basically just yeah, take DeSci to the next level. I guess let's not talk about numbers, but which is always a dangerous thing to do. But maybe what we should also do is step back for a minute. And so you build your whole brand on being that investor in DeSci, like basically the guy that really understands well the whole landscape. So we talked about AI agents and how that is going to interact with DeSci, but maybe for people that are not so familiar with the space as a whole, maybe you could give us like a whole, like an overview, like a map of yeah what's going on in this side right now and like what other exciting areas are happening and what should be on people's radar.
I mean, Patrick is, the OG DeSci influencer. I don't know if there's even like an influencer to date, that we just specialize solely on DeSci. And reading your feed, Patrick, I always see, the latest of the news there, from DeSci source. But if I'm just, not up to date, I just check your profile and read through. So, big up for what you're doing, and I think that this is an amazing question, Em.
Yeah, I appreciate hearing that. That actually gives me some good motivation to keep going, because sometimes it's like we're so in the weeds in DeSci, and because not a ton of people are paying attention to it, sometimes I feel like I'm just putting it out into like an echo void, or just my content's just going out, and it's like, yeah, 10 people saw it, that's cool. But I know that it is helpful to kind of provide that aggregate source of information for decentralized science. I'm super, as you guys know, and anyone watching this from my community knows how excited I am about decentralized science. If I could just go briefly into a background as to kind of how I ended up here and then do the landscape. Is that cool with you
Please
guys?
do.
Okay.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
So I used to work in a genetics lab out of Boston, and so I was a shift lead there. I was leading a team of 20 genetic analysts and kind of doing research, but helping with different schools and institutions like AbbVie, like Harvard, because it was in Boston. So a lot of the colleges would send their data samples to us to sequence for them, and then give them insight after the fact. So I had my like passion, my career was focused in on that. That door ended up closing for a couple reasons, but one big one that I won't get too into here. But that ended up shifting all of my focus into investing. And one of the opportunities I saw was in crypto. And I felt like there was a lot of ignorant people making a lot of noise, getting a lot of attention for things that didn't make any sense to me. And so I came in trying to make educational crypto content to kind of sift through the noise and provide just a resource for people. And that's when I found Decentralized Science, and Joshua Jake, one of my good friends over the CEO of Discover Crypto, um, he showed me Vitalik's article post on Decentralized Science from years ago, and I was like, holy shit. And then I found out that Brian Armstrong had a project in Decentralized Science called Research Hub, and I was like, this is massive because some of the brightest minds in the industry are fixated on what blockchain can do for medical data and innovation in academia and biotech and computer sciences and the whole 9 yards. And so the more I got into the trenches and kind of like diving into what exactly decentralized science was, the more I realized that it was not just disrupting an industry, but rather adding on to this industry and creating almost an entirely new economy behind it, science on the blockchain. And so a lot of like the landscape currently speaking is focused in on, in my opinion, two key things, and it's funding through things like Bioprotocol and through different DAOs that are out there for funding different scientific initiatives. And then it's focused in on data sovereignty, which means basically just taking ownership back of your data that you provide. So every time you go to the doctor, you get your blood measured and you get or your blood pressure measured and you get your height and your weight and everything. That's all data that's being generated that due to different regulations out in the world, you can't actually gain access to it. You can't do much research with it. And so by using blockchain tech and kind of the privacy side of it with zero knowledge proofs and stuff, and again, I'm getting a little bit in the weeds here, but you can actually start utilizing that data for advancements and getting compensated in a lot of cases for that. So that's kind of, as I see it, that's where a lot of the landscape is right now. It's super exciting.
You know, you tapped into important thing, you know, and that I believe is actually data, and that's something that I believe sometimes in whole crypto and DeSci, you know, it's not like the hottest topic on the top, right? Because we're looking at, you know, fancy races and fancy funding, but you know, there's so much data that it can actually be securely stored, shared, you know, and managed for all the DeSci protocols using actually blockchain tech and. I just wanted to take a moment, you know, to point this out, you know, that while we still stay focused on, you know, funding research and on peer reviewing, that there's still a huge data sector for everyone to actually tap into. And, you know, diving slowly into the, you know, DeSci landscape, as already the question from suggests, you know, I think, you know, DeSci, not DeSci, sorry, but data is something, you know, that right now is not on the top, but something that we're gonna be, you know, diving more and more deeper later on as we realize, you know, that we got enough funding, you know, we got the people, we got the tech, but now is the time, you know, to actually get all the historical and the current data on what we actually want to fix. So. What do you actually believe, Patrick, is, you know, like the hottest narrative right now in DeSci? Is it still funding, or are people already, you know, diving deeper into data or training their AI agents? What do you think, you know, right now would be like the top hottest thing?
I was gonna say, so I think you break it into two categories. You have the builders and the people that are actually in the know on what's going on and where their attention is, and then you have the public and the mind share as a function of public facing mentions. and where that focus is on. And so I think both of them actually kind of go into the same, if you think about it in a roundabout way, but the kind of the builders seem to be very focused in on the data side of things, because you can't do anything without that data. So whether that data leads them to the conclusion of I need to go launch long COVID labs because we've got hundreds of millions of people impacted by long COVID, or that data is like we need to hyperfixate on this one potential molecule because the data is pointing us towards the long term benefits of actually funding this research. And then the public facing side, I think, is hyper fixated right now on whatever sounds really cool and fancy. So that right now is AI agents. So every single project under the sun that I at least watch and that is on my like X list of projects I pay attention to seems to be just like, oh, we have an agent too. We just launched our agent. We just here's our token, and look at, we made a pump fund for an agent. And it's like, okay, all right, let's calm down for a second and kind of get back to the roots of what actually matters with this.
I mean, there's been, a lot of, opinions that I've read on X that, some projects recently they just do a TGE on their token, thinking like this is how you raise money, right, for DeSci, and this is how you actually solve the problems in science, just make a token and call it a day. And I think it's quite obvious right now after DeSci being a trend for like the last 3 to 4 years. I mean, not really a trend, it was really just like flying under the water, and no one really knew about DeSci like a year ago, right? Before Bio really started building out and the Research Hub started to get more popular and more known. But what I want to say is that my personal feeling is lately that the space became competitive, and that people are already, starting to be able to call out on the bullshit, like making an AI agent, right? Just doing a token, and that's it, right? And but that also applies to the whole crypto market, The more attention we get in crypto, the more scams arise there. Um, so I'm thinking, there's a lot of useless stuff, being solved in crypto. Sometimes I'm laughing myself, and then we have, the DeSci stuff and the science, right? Trying to do something, life-changing, groundbreaking. So what would you think, are like the things that we should focus more on, in DeSci right now from what you see in the whole landscape?
Yeah, good question. I think it's super easy, and I think that it is something that only a select few will actually end up doing, but those will end up being the ones that have the biggest impact down the line. So really want anyone watching to pay attention and look for this in and of themselves when they're doing their research or trying to pinpoint their attention. The the reason why we're seeing so many grifters and so many LARPs come into the DeSci space is because it gained some momentum and got some attention, and that is the nature of crypto and Web3. And so a lot of projects out there, a lot of companies out there in DeSci have kind of decided to go the Web3 route for the technical advantages of it without actually acknowledging what crypto is. And crypto, in its stage right now, is in its infancy, in which you get these boom and bust phases. And so right now we're in the final year of the boom phase. 2025, according to the history that we have available for crypto, I know it's not super extensive, but that's what we got to work with right now. 2025 is the year that whoever makes the most noise gets rewarded the most, as long as they're not completely fraudulent. As long as they're not just completely here to grift and make money, whoever can get that noise down, aka marketing, and showcasing their products and actually gaining that attention. You look at Solana as a perfect example of it for anyone who's familiar with its launch. Solana is not that spectacular. It's not. As a blockchain, it's actually one of the lesser as far as tech is concerned. But
I, you know, you, know-
they
you know what the thing is. I'm sorry for interrupting, but like
you're good.
Solana is one of the least favorite blockchains, at least to me, with some of the most exciting projects on it, right? I mean, it's quite hilarious, right? Just because they make a lot of noise.
Exactly. They made a shit ton of noise. It got everyone's attention, and that's where people decided to build because they already had that existing user face, that existing user base. And so the same thing, take it on a micro scale here for DeSci. We're getting our first ever wave or influx of eyes and attention. Whoever can gain as much of that as possible in the short term, as long as, again, you guys aren't completely grifting, and that's not you two, obviously I know you guys aren't grifting, but as long as the people who gain that attention is not just a scam, then I think that 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the line, you'll have those people that you can actually like pitch your product to and actually get to onboard into whatever apps you deploy and get to contribute to your DAO and actually start biohacking their bodies, right? That kind of stuff, I think, in my opinion, that's what's going on right now.
That actually makes me curious. So you mentioned briefly crypto cycles and how this year is probably the up cycle, bull cycle, whatever you want to call it. Like how do you think this is actually gonna play out? Like, is DeSci gonna follow the same typical 4-year cycle that we have in all of crypto? Or like is there a way to actually make it decorrelated enough from everything else and make it independent because the substance is quite different as well that it can just kind of continue regardless of the cycle? Like what do you think is going to happen?
I think given enough time, it's inevitable that it decouples from just crypto and Bitcoin. I don't think that the tokens, and I want to make the distinction there, I don't think the tokens are going to decouple from Bitcoin, at least not while dominance is up at 50 something percent for Bitcoin. Where Bitcoin makes up more than 50% of the crypto market, all of the tokens in the market, I think, will just continue to follow Bitcoin for the foreseeable future. The innovation and the one-offs that do really well will be more substantial within decentralized science than other industries, but we're all in the same pool right now. And so whatever the king does, I think, for the time being, will influence the tokens.
So if anybody listening is launching or thinking about building a DeSci project, then the game is really like you said, launch a token this year, try to make noise, build a treasury, and work on
And
something legit.
build a product, you know? The product
Build a product.
has to
Yeah,
make
yeah.
sense.
Yeah, but make sure you can survive, I guess, the next couple of years building product, even if there is not that much hype, I guess. That's what you're saying,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Historically, the year after this year, so 2026, everyone leaves. They're like, F that, I'm done. And they'll start coming back a year after that. But historically, 2026, the music stops, and it's time to count your cards and figure out if you got a chair or not.
That's a good one if you got a chair or not. I mean, some of these people that are investing in DeSci right now, now they're mad scientists, but in a year, we will all might be looking for jobs in McDonald's. Who knows, right? All right, let's shift the discussion in something you have actually, tapped into. Do you biohack? I know this question is gonna be, very exciting
Yes,
for M here, but
let's go there.
you mentioned slightly there biohacking, so I would love to hear your opinion on biohacking. I have also seen that you got the CGM like a few weeks ago. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I got the CGM from WellShare to kind of contribute some of my blood sugar data to them, my blood glucose data to them. Unfortunately, it wouldn't connect to my US based phone, so I had to take it out of my arm. Like it was a Germany made product, and I was in the US and I needed to KYC into Germany. Oh, let's go, M goes. And
Go
it
ahead.
just
Yes.
wouldn't let me do that. So I tried to get more advanced in my biohacking, but I hit my first little roadblock. Funny enough, last night, my girlfriend Mandy and I watched the new Netflix documentary on Brian Johnson, and now she was like up at 5:30 this morning. She's like, "All right, I made you a green smoothie. Let's go hit the gym. It's time to start biohacking. We need to get our bodies in shape. I'm gonna live forever here." So my I've been trying to get more and more focused in on biohacking because I do like it's very interesting to me, and I think she's gonna accelerate that quite a bit.
I'm so happy to hear that, and yeah, we are more than glad to welcome you in the biohacking community. Like the things that you mentioned, those are very good starting points, and from there you can go only deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. So,
No, I
as
know.
as people usually do.
Yeah, it becomes an addiction, and I'm so happy if that becomes my main addiction.
It's yeah, there are worse addictions than that to have. So I think you're not doing so badly. But now it made me think of another thing when you mentioned Brian Johnson. So do you think, at least to me, it seems like there are a couple of catalysts now, like these big influencers. So Brian Johnson is the most famous one. Is he really gonna kickstart people? I think not only being interested in health and biohacking, but does he have the potential to really kickstart like the mainstream being interested in science? And another thing that I can think about, like let's not go to political, but maybe with Trump's election, like a lot of people are like, oh yes, like innovation, deregulation, like civilization progressing much faster, Elon Musk going to space, whatever. Like, are those things and maybe some other you can think about, like, do you think that's going to have an impact on accelerating science and DeSci more specifically?
Yeah, without a doubt, I think they're going to accelerate DeSci. I think that they're acting as megaphones for what's going on. And so it's like the top down funnel. You do something crazy to get as many eyes as possible. And then I just noticed my arm like blended in completely with the wall there. Um, and then you just funnel them into the movement of decentralized science or citizen science, if people want to call it that so that it's more acceptable to them. But especially with Trump in office and RFK as one of his like main people reworking how the United States is going to approach the healthcare system and health as a general, like we just saw executive orders, and we won't get into the political side of it, but I think this is something that the entire industry needs to consider. Like the United States cutting funding for the NIH, the United States getting out of the, or like, yeah, getting out of the WHO, the United States cutting funding to all of these different healthcare organizations around the world. It's going to get eyes on healthcare and science in general, and then what the builders and the founders do with that attention from there will dictate, I think, the direction. So more people than ever now are going to be focused in on this sector for the coming decade, I think.
I feel like, people are much closer right now to DeSci than with the old administration with RFK, what you have mentioned, trying to make America, healthy again. But it's not all, just about the fun quote, but it's about actually bringing attention to people that, come on, people, you've been doing the stuff incorrectly for the whole decade, right? And it's been all wrong on the governmental level, the agriculture has been, boosted to grow as much stuff as possible, and no one really cared about health. And I think that, people are actually starting to realize and reverse this trend, and take care more of themselves. But I I see you, that you want to say something because you're very close to the topic. So
I'm just thinking it almost feels like a perfect storm. Like obviously we don't know what's gonna happen, but all of what you just mentioned, plus this is happening at the time when, in general, like people's distrust in all sorts of institutions is at its lowest, and like really the ethos of take things into your own hands is really really on the rise, and really enabled for the first time, I guess, at scale as well, thanks to internet and now thanks to this money layer of the internet, which crypto is. So like I don't want to be too bullish, but obviously I am because I'm building in the space. But it does seem like we've got a lot of kind of things conspiring really in our favor that can really really help us to make decentralized science into something. I feel.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think now is the best opportunity there is, and then also like I think it just gets better from here. We're literally at the infancy, the genesis of a new sector of the economy, in my opinion. And so I think it just continues to grow and grow and grow. One thing I did want to mention that is like easy to overlook, but the fact I believe it was InNOut So I don't know if you two are aware of what InNOut is, but it's a fast food chain here in America. Specifically, like the West Coast has a lot of In-N-Out burgers, and they're traditionally very, very unhealthy for you. And I'm not saying they're any better for you right now, but they did just change, and they announced that they're going to be using beef tallow to deep fry their fries as compared to the seed oils that they have been using. And so, like, that little thing in and of itself, having a very popular fast food chain make that change, is going to bring people being like, why the hell did they just change to beef tallow instead of these seed oils? I thought the seed oils were good for you and healthy. They're seeds, plants are good for you. And so then they start digging into it and they're like, oh shit, maybe I'm obese because I've just been drinking seed oil for my entire life. So it,
I mean, it's a small thing, in a huge change they must do, Then there's a lot of questions like, is the beef antibiotics free or whatever, right? And it goes all the way, to the cow being born and which grass the cow has eaten, But the change has
Is
to
this
start
grass-fed as
start
well?
somewhere, yeah. If it ate even grass, right? But it has to start somewhere, and this signals a potential shift, and seeing a commercial company, doing a move that's probably more expensive for them, it's quite unusual.
yeah.
Do you think they got pressured by their customers, or they just wanna like anticipate what's gonna happen in the future, or like what was the trigger there?
It's a good question. I know they might just be trying to capitalize off of a new wave because I know that seed oil has become very trendy lately, and a lot of fitness people are starting to like wake up to it and kind of look into it and be like, oh, I need to get away from all of my seed oils. So it's possible that just being out in California, they're trying to ride that wave of attention. I don't really know, but I imagine it's got something around that.
I mean, let them capitalize on the wave, of course, businesses have to do their business. They have to earn their money, but how when healthy lifestyle and a biohacking lifestyle or longevity lifestyle becomes a trend, then these companies are gonna have to adapt. So it's not
Yeah.
necessarily a bad thing, right? Being forced by the customers.
Yeah.
But looking at the waves and talking about seed oils and stuff, I would just like to take a step back because I feel like we're going into nutrition and seed oils from talking about DeSci, generally. So I would love to just take a step back into the market a little bit. And
Here
there's a simple question. Uh, how do we get more people into DeSci, Patrick?
I think there's tons of different avenues that we can go down to get more people in interested in decentralized science. I think everything that we were just talking about is one thing that's going to get people in. I think it, and this is kind of a contrary opinion to a lot of people who are building in decentralized science, but I think having the tokens actually acts as the top funnel to bring people in because most people in Web3 and in crypto are there for the money and then they'll stay for the science or they'll stay for the tech. And so if you kind of cast that wide net, you can get people's attention with the token and then showcase that you're actually doing something. But it's a very short window. Attention span is going down the drain pretty quickly. And I'm curious, I want to hear from both of you guys on Stadium Science. It's a DeSci project. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but they actually made a map of restaurants that don't use seed oil for New York, and they just launched recently like a poly markets for science, and so letting people come in and gamble and bet on will literally anything. You can make your own bets. So like, will this drug get FDA approval or not? And so I'm interested to see from you two what your thoughts are on predictive markets in science.
Stadium science. Wow. I mean, I'm hearing for the first time. I've probably been living under the rock, fully informed remote during the last week. So I haven't seen that, but I think, predictive, predictive markets in science is something that we've been discussing at our company and also with him and with everyone that I actually meet for some time because, by In my opinion, this can be really well applied to research and to actually forcing researchers to publish their trials and their research papers, right? Because one of the largest problem in publishing is that you make a research on a drug, you get a 12 researchers that is going to tell you that the drug is not good, and then there's going to be one positive, and of course you're going to publish only the positive ones. But by being able to submit your research paper to some sort of, a prediction market about what's going to be the result, then you're going to have, loads of people, just wanting to know the results, and there's going to be also a huge motivation, financial factor for you to conduct the research and to actually publish the results. So I think this is amazing, and I would really love to see more of predictive, prediction markets in DeSci. And I also see that they have this sort of betting on who will have the best sleep on January 24th. I mean, it's quite a gimmick. It's fun, but that's more close to the regular gamble. So for me, it's fine as long, as it helps to attract the people, people want to have fun. The attention span, as you have already mentioned, is really, really, really small. So the more bizarre and the more you go, and the more outrageous things you do, the more people you're going to attract if you can then convert them into, betting on real world drug research, That's amazing. And, we should really do that. And I'm really bullish on that. How about you?
I have some thoughts on this as well, and I mean, I love prediction markets in general. Like what they did for the recent election was quite amazing compared to all mainstream polls, and I'm pretty sure that it can be applied to all sorts of other areas, science included. I think in science specifically, though, it brings the question like how qualified the people making those bets are, though, right? Like it's a really cool idea in theory. Let's have like 10 different substances that potentially extend life, and like let's make bets on which one we should research first. um, but I think the question is, yeah, like most people have no idea. So is it just the community of scientists that actually understand what's going on, making the predictions? Is it anyone making the predictions? Like, I don't know. Maybe the product is going to look a bit different than Polymarket does right now for it to work in science.
The question is if in some sort of, good way we can make the professionals, make the bets on what to research, but we can have the people, bet on the outcome, because then, you're not fully decentralized. So I mean, sort of, but you still incentivize people to bet, and you still incentivize the researcher to conduct the research and publish the trial. So, that might be the first step, because I don't want a bunch of crypto degens, doing research on whatever, right? I know what ideas might occur in people's minds. So I think that's, as a first step. Right now we've seen a molecule, using the flies, and the mouses, on testing compounds. So they made the call on which compound they're gonna test, and they let the people bet on it, right? And I think that approach might be, a great starting point for us. So quite a contrary opinion to you, but what do you think yourself, Patrick? I'm really curious.
Yeah, it brings in the free market into an area that's traditionally been siloed, and siloed for potentially really good reasons. I think that the free market generally, when it actually is free, is a rather good thing to involve in different sectors. So hopefully, with time, it can kind of expand into a useful tool for people, like being able, if you spend $10 million researching a compound, being able to go in and hedge all of your research with a predictive model like this. It should hopefully open the door to just making a better flywheel, which I think is very needed, because a lot of like the stuff that's going on in research and data collection right now in academia is kind of like a drain of resources from the government, especially when all that money just goes directly into the same research that we've already done, because that's what is incentivized right now. So if we can create a new incentivization model, that I think is going to be a net positive, but not without some pretty aggressive turbulence.
I mean, you cannot, change the whole space in science and how research is conducted, overnight. But that's what you said, like money is flowing into the same research, into the same companies conducting the research, and this can actually help us open the market itself, the research market to new players, So I think it's a good thing. I'm definitely gonna check Stadium Science. Thanks for the alpha, right?
It makes me think of one more thing. Actually, it brings me back slightly to what Patrick said just now about how we need to, yes, tap into this pool of degens and make sure that some of them stay around and get interested in science. So that feels like that's one way of doing it. But then there is also the opposite way of doing it. Like, let's just get people who are already interested in science or biohacking or like whichever area of all of this, and let's onboard them onto crypto. So I'm actually wondering now, which one of the two do you think is easier to do, and which one of those should we be focusing on? What do you think?
It's actually a really good question. I think I've thought a lot about it because obviously a lot of the people like yourself, even MGOs, I know that you guys had been developing out Biohacker prior to doing any crypto stuff, and arguably you've still just started to dabble your toes into tapping into some of those degens. You've like everyone knows of what you guys are doing, but you've been focused on getting those pure biohackers into the project, and I think that is a good start for building the foundation so that you're not just a, and I'm going to use this term, but it's not pertaining to the coins or anything. It's pertaining to the longevity of different companies, but like a pump and dump where you just come in, your whatever project is 100% degen only, no foundational layer. You get 100,000 people to pay attention to what you're doing, but because there's no substance, there's no die-hard core community, then it just fades into nothing as the attention cycle goes away. So I think if you can create, if projects can create a good mixture in which they have those pure science people who are there regardless of what happens to the crypto side and the degen side, that's going to be very, very crucial to surviving in the long term. But then because we're in the Web3 world, utilizing the attention that's coming into crypto and Web3 and getting all of those degens in, you're going to find a large subset of them will stick around after the fact because they see there is substance and there is something going on.
I couldn't agree with you more, and that's pretty much what we have been trying to do at BiohackerDAO as well, starting with the, as you said, real biohackers, and then adding degens, crypto degens into the mix. But it's definitely not an easy thing to do. Like those cohorts have very different priorities often, and very, very different attention spans as well. And we're starting to reconcile it now. Like it's kind of working. They're starting to mix, and like I think it is a good thing. Like both of those groups of people are being enriched by the point of view of the other. But it's a process, and it's not an easy thing to get right. That's for sure.
Yeah, you almost have to like create incentive models that aren't going to be very valuable to your like data aggregation and the actual research, but will be powerful in getting people excited to come in and look deeper. So like I don't know. One thing I really like doing is going out and looking at the morning sun or looking at sunlight within the first, not, I don't actually stare into the sun, but looking at morning sunlight in the first hour of waking up. And so something fun that you can do with people would potentially be like providing an incentive structure or a little reward to people that can show physical proof of having gone and looked at the morning sky. And then it's like a low barrier of entry. It's super funny. People can rally behind it, and then from there you're like, oh, and look at, we have another thing here in which if you put a continuous glucose monitoring device in your arm, we'll give you even more. And then they're like, oh, well, the first one was so fun. I want to continue to participate as much as I can.
And
It's
the
gonna
first
look
one is the building brick, right? So people start looking into the sun, and then we ask them for more data, to see if it actually helps them to look into the sun in the morning. But it's Andrew Huberman, right? So Huberman Labs, where you got the recommendation. I did it
yeah.
for a while, and I'm gonna be honest. I felt like I don't know if it was like a placebo or just like a feeling because I did it that I felt better, right? But I think it helps, not significantly, but it's like a little step on making your life a little bit longer, happier, healthier. I don't know on the health side, but on the mood side, no, I felt quite well. Unfortunately, as you can see behind me, does the sky here for 300 days a year, so staring into the sunlight turns out to be staring into the clouds.
I love the idea of incentivizing all of these crypto degens who probably live in their mom's basement to go outside, look into the sun, and maybe even touch grass. Like that's we could all benefit
Yeah,
from that. That's for sure.
literally a little bit of grounding, and who knows, you awaken the next full science degen. You never know who you're talking to.
I love that.
Love it, guys. I feel like we're running a little bit short of time, but I would still, love to give you both a little bit of space, to give out some closing thoughts. And I think, the best thing to tap into is what we already did, getting new people into DeSci, and what do you guys see, as the potential of how we can manage it to onboard the next billion, right? And how can as someone in the chat said, an average Joe, how the DeSci grow, right? And how he can get into the whole space, and that does he actually have to be a scientist? So I would love to hear your thoughts before we actually end this conversation. Patrick?
Um, yeah, yeah. I think you don't need to be a full-scale scientist, in my opinion, to actually contribute and make a difference in all of this. The whole movement is dedicated around people being activated and actually using whatever skill set you have to help create and push the entire mission. And the cool part about this mission and DeSci as a whole is that it is a net positive for humanity, all of humanity. I know it sounds stupid and it's like, oh, we're going to change the world. No, like this actually is already changing the world. It's not just a pipe dream. It's not something that's going to hopefully play out in 20, 30 years. Like it's actively doing things for people right now that previously never existed. And so I think, like me, I'm not a scientist. I did the genetic analyst stuff, and so I had a good understanding of how some of science works. But my skill set was in making noise and community building and gathering attention and trying to like showcase and break down complicated tasks into simple, digestible pieces of information. And so that's what I came in and tried to do for the mission of DeSci. And so like people like yourselves, you guys are really smart builders. I think you guys are both ahead on top of me in the live stream. You guys are really both smart builders, and so your skill sets coming together are really optimized for what you guys can bring. So I think it takes a second of self-reflection for anyone who's getting into the space. Figure out what you're good at and actually activate and work for the mission.
And some people might think, like I don't have an appropriate skill set, but there's so much you can do, and there's so many ways you can contribute. You can go on and do workshops, on looking at the sun or using the CGM, right? Just there's a lot of things. A lot of social media managers need it, content writers, lawyers even. I mean, lawyers are very important in the process, but
We love
you
lawyers.
know. Just don't think you're an average Joe, because even when you're an average Joe, you probably have a skill set that is able to contribute to DeSci and be net positive in what you're doing there. So,
I'm actually really vibing with this message because, like in biohacking, what we're really preaching at BiohackerDAO is really citizen science. So we we're not really even targeting like people with degrees or PhDs to join because it shouldn't be necessary. Like for what we're doing, collecting data from your own body just through different devices and trying to figure out running very simple self experiments, often at a sample size of one, and just trying to figure out what effects things are having on your body. Like you really don't need to be a scientist to do that, but by coming together in a group and sharing those data, sharing those experimental results, you can still really push science forward. And I think for me, that's really the ethos of yeah, citizen science or DeSci or whatever you want to call it, that there should be space for you. Um, and or another example is like the nice thing about all of these funding DAOs is that people that are just literally excited about an idea, like for example CryoDAO, like, oh yes, let's freeze people so we can be revived in 1,000 years and travel to different planets. Like you can have zero idea about how it's done and zero qualification. There are other people in the DAO that will take care of the science, but you can just toss, like, I don't know, spare $50 into their token and contribute to the projects they're funding, and you just get to say that this is exciting or interesting enough to be funded. So that's the beauty of DeSci for me.
Well said. I think this conversation was really amazing. And yeah, I mean, Patrick, go ahead if you want to add something. But I really love what you said.
No, this conversation was fantastic. I really appreciate you guys having me on here to talk. Um, Really, everyone who's listening, the more noise that can be made for DeSci, the more we can actually advance the entire
Where's
space.
Max?
And so, whether that's rating different project live streams like you guys are in here right now, chatting in the comment section, just making people aware that we're here and active, or that is going and actually like pushing different initiatives forward. My brain went blank there for a second of what my main point was going to be. Oh, making content. Making content is the best possible way to advance anything in the period. End of discussion. The more content you can make about stuff, the more you're going to be able to advance it. We just saw it with the election. Why do you think they spend hundreds of millions of dollars making content to convince people of something to vote a certain way? Content works. That's how you get attention. That's how you sway people. So, appreciate you guys.
You know,
Content is king, especially memes. We need more DeSci memes.
we do, but what I wanted to just touch on before we actually drop off is some people think that if they're gonna post their tweets, five people are gonna see it, but that's generally five more people, whom are gonna hear about DeSci, right? So in your case, there's hundreds of people, but even if you're able to convince three of your friends to join us on this journey, that's already amazing. So five is perfect, 50 is amazing, 100 is wonderful, but creating content is something that I highly encourage you to do so. And everyone watching it, we already do it, right? Lots of memes, lots of articles, etc. But I think that's
I
the way to
mean,
go. And, and
that's what we're doing here right now on this call. We do
exactly, and
something.
especially right now, the content is so short-lived, right? So we do the podcast today, tomorrow we post something, and 3 days later, everyone's gonna forget. So keeping up the pace, is something we need. So bring more of these high memes.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
Let's go. All right, guys. So, thanks, Patrick, once again for being part of this. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Some of you might be tuning in actually from a recording on YouTube or Spotify, where it is going to be published later on. So, all I can say is like, subscribe, follow this Accelerate Bio podcast profile. Also, feel free to drop by on the Data Lake Token profile and BiohackerDAO profile. And I guess in your case, Patrick, it would be that investor on X, right? That's the best handle to catch you at.
Yes, absolutely. That investor, I think the at is this investor because they banned my that investor account. But if you search that investor almost anywhere, my content should come up. That investor DeSci. And yeah,
Go check it out. All right, guys. See ya.
appreciate it.